Well, this is episode 6 of It Is What It Is, and I'm here with a really awesome guest today. Super excited about this. I was looking forward to it when we had it on the schedule. DJ Sevens, one of my really good buddies for years now. I've known you since I was like 21.
Yeah.
Downtown, bro.
Yeah, it was funny. I was thinking about it, and I was working with your brother at Slow Brew, and he was bouncing, and I was DJing there, and the whole family is great, man. I've been happy to see what he's been doing with getting married and starting his own journey, and then what you've been doing with
yours.
Man,
so. For sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I always like to give a special shout out too. Yeah. Right. And you're big into entertainment. You're big into security.
Yep.
DJing, producing.
Yes, sir.
I feel like you got your hands in everything, bro. So, and it's hard to know people like that. But for real, if you have a friend that's very talented and just totally the kind of guy that, inspires you to do more and want to learn more and do more, then you should text them for sure. Because DJ Sevens is that kind of guy.
That's right. Man, thank you. Yeah, I've been lately. I've been trying to push the culture on the coast. I come from Cambria. Me and Win, we grew up together. Small town, right? But there was really no scene for hip hop or really music in general for the young people when we were growing up. So now that I see some younger kids coming in and doing it, it's been really cool to hey, how can I help? Because there was nobody there for us to do that when we were going through it. So
yeah, and you are totally that way too.
Yes,
you've always been super open and willing to help in any way you can. I mean, even this is a perfect example of it. And it really does mean a lot to me because I was telling some buddies back in Dallas, and I was showing them your page and everything, and they were like, "Yo, this is gonna be the sickest podcast." Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah."
So, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And as a side note, we got to get you out to Dallas too.
That's right.
You're always traveling. You're always on the move.
I am, yeah. Long haul keeps us busy, man. That's for sure. Just everything we've been pushing and shows and different things. It's been really cool, and definitely have to make a stop in Dallas. Come see you. Yeah. Go to a Mavs game, and then because I need to see Luka play. It's been on my list for a while. Yeah. But then, maybe do a show out there or DJ a club or, whatever. We'll figure it out.
That'd be rad.
Something cool.
And you mentioned long haul, which, I think a lot of people on the coast are a big fan of it, and it's expanding for sure. It's bigger than the coast now.
That's the clip right there, baby.
I know. And as wild too, I noticed you guys were throwing that up before Jack. I just want to make that known.
Absolutely. This has been long haul since the start, man. Yeah. So just because he does it, that's cool. But
no, that's rad.
Yeah, good for him. And obviously he's taken off and done crazy things, sure. Right? So, but yeah, we've been on this for a long time, man. We started, I got to go to the notes, man, because it's hard to keep all of this intact because it's been a hell of a ride and a long start. We're now about 12 years in. So
12 years of long haul.
12 years, yep.
So
from conception.
How did it start? What was the idea? How did you guys form it?
So James K and Win, they started long haul in 2010, and they were just I believe they met at Cuesta.
Okay.
And both of them were kind of into music, but still just young, fresh kids trying to figure out what they're going to do. And they gravitated towards each other, started making music, brought Sean Ross in. And before I get going on all these names, shout outs to all of them. People I'll forget. I'm happy. All the people that have helped us get this far, right? Sure. So it's there's going to be a lot of shout outs today, and there's going to be a lot of name dropping, and I promise I don't do that on purpose. It's just giving everybody their due credit, So
no, that's dope. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so Sean Ross, 2013-ish, somewhere around there, he reconnected with James. I think they went to high school together, so they already knew each other, but he was already doing, I think in high school, Sean Ross was doing beats for Lil Wayne, and he was kind of already established at 17, 18, 19 years old.
Wow.
And so that was really cool. They got to link up, and then they started making music, and that's kind of when it changed from we make music and we hang out to oh no, we're gonna do this. This is what we're doing. So that was really cool to see. And I kind of got involved around that time, 2013, 14. I just was starting my DJ journey, I guess. And I think 2000, 16, then we signed Cody Balboa, and he's great. Shout out Cody, that's my guy. He just got off a big tour with King Lil G. He did like a 32 city tour nationally, so very cool. Him and James went on that trip, but we signed Cody in 2016. He's been rocking with us ever since, and great dude. And that's kind of the starting four, I guess, right there.
Okay.
And then we have affiliates all over the place. Just, you know, we're at Sauce Boss Studios right now, if you couldn't tell. And, you know, Word Sauce has been friends to us, local band out here. How Fly, if you know him, he's out of Paso. He's been one of our homies for a long time. And there's plenty more that we work with now in LA. But yeah, that's kind of how it started, I guess. And we're just kind of riding it out, seeing where it goes.
That's dope.
Yeah.
And you said, like, you mentioned those guys making the mindset of like, all right, we're not just like doing this for fun. Like, this is what we're doing, and we're chasing this dream. We're chasing this goal, which I can relate to right now, because like when you're in that limbo zone of like, hey, I really like this, you know, like some people snap out of it a lot quicker and choose it as a profession, you know, and some people stay in that limbo zone. You know, I know people like that. And like, you can tell like for everybody, it's a little bit different until you actually figure out like what you're going to like commit to and pursue. So can you like talk about like that for you with DJing and what you went through?
Yeah, honestly, I think DJing started out for me kind of a pipe dream of just like, hey, like I like that up there. Like, so how I got my start is I was working at Mother's Tavern, a local bar out here in San Luis Obispo. And I was working security. I was 21 years old, fresh out of college because I dropped out. Don't have to stay in school if you don't want to. Remember that? That's
true.
That's just some good life advice for you. You don't have to go to college to be successful.
What's wild is like what I went to school for, like it's not what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? I didn't go to school for like video or music production or anything like that. And like here I am trying to learn it. But
that's right. Exactly. No, I just wanted to let kids know that there's an option out there that doesn't involve going to college and doing that traditional route, I guess. That's what they all pushed us towards, right? If you remember graduating high school, they were all like, oh, where are you going to apply? What are you going to do? What's going to be your major? And it's like, man, I'm 17, 18 years old. Like, I don't know. Yeah. You know, I don't know what I want to be, who I want to be in 10 years, 20 years. Yeah. So it's kind of the difficult position they put you in there. But yeah, so I got started, what year was that? 2010. Yeah. Working security at the bar and just kind of, you know, would see the DJs around and they would always come in and friendly with staff. And I was like, oh, these guys are cool. And like, man, that seems like a kick-ass job. They're up there like partying. Look at all the people around them. So it kind of started off like very, I would say selfish, or like I wanted to be something. So like I thought that was it. Yeah. I mean, I still love DJing. It's still fun. But I just don't do it a whole lot anymore. And that's all right. You know, it's like when we have tours and stuff, I like to do that. When we have shows, I do weddings sometimes for friends of mine. Like, I just like doing it. But the start was, pretty selfish for me of wanting to like be something, be somebody kind of, you know. And then luckily I got older and snapped out of it and was like, you don't have to be anything, you know, like it's okay to have what you have, and it's okay if you don't make it to $1 billion. It's okay if you don't win a Grammy. It's okay. But like now that I'm getting older, it's like, yeah, but I want those things still, you know, like I want to go on a world tour or a national tour, just myself DJing for people, you know, or doing something like that. But when it started, it was a lot more selfish than that. So
what's interesting too about the selfish thing that you're saying, when I was younger, I had the same type of selfish like desires that I wanted. And then like when you get older, I feel like you realize that this selfishness is okay as long as it's like for something better that provides good to others, you know, which like you're talking about right now. Like you just said, you know, touring around the world, like in front of other people, like bringing them joy, doing these different things. As where it went from like, oh, I want to be surrounded by those people in the DJ booth and everything, you know. So it changes up a little bit, I feel like. And like your dreams can still be selfish in an aspect, but the maturity of something changing is something I've noticed in my life too. And and I think it's something worth noting. You
No,
know?
for sure. I think getting older kind of puts things into perspective, man. Like my politics changed, my bank account changed, my work ethic changed. I'm not the same like bad employee I was when I was 21.
Yeah.
To be fair, like that's not me anymore.
Yeah.
So I feel like I kind of reinvent what I do often. But that's just another avenue to make money, really. Most of my goals, they're difficult, right? They're not easy. They're not easily obtained. So I have to keep reminding myself that like, yes, that's a goal and I'm trying to meet that. But there's more than just that selfish drive of getting to where I want to be. There's other things around me, other people that I have, family, friends, that it's just, that's why I use the word selfish, because yes, that would bring me a lot of joy, but I don't think that's what the meaning of life necessarily is. You know, you're not always going to do things that make you happy all the time, you know? So I try to remind myself that like responsibility, just in being a man and being a human being on this planet, it's a lot more than just what I want, you know? So I'm shifting. That's a good word, shifting.
Yeah.
I'm shifting my perspective and really want to do good things for the world.
Yeah. No, I believe it too.
So.
And you, like I said earlier, like you're so dynamic in what you do. It's actually really impressive, man.
I appreciate that.
You are really intelligent when it comes to business. You're really intelligent when it comes to music, security, all these different things that you've got your hands in. And I think, you know, if you really take a step back and look at like how far you've come, because I think a lot of people forget to do that, you know, like you're talking about things you want to accomplish, right? And those goals are down the road, you know, who's to say how far they are?
Yeah.
But like looking back and seeing how far you've come, dude, that's rad. Because like you said, like being a 21-year-old shit employee, like I was the same way. You know? Like, and looking at like how far I've come from that 21-year-old is cool. And I used to say this thing all the time, like I was like, dude, I hate who I was 5 years ago. Like if I look back like at who I was 5 years ago, and then like 5 years, you know, if I go back 5 years ago, I said the same thing about myself 5 years ago. And if I go 5 years forward, I'll say that about me now, you know. It's not necessarily hate like in a bad sense or whatever. It's just like, I'm so glad that I've progressed past that person, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the natural progression of growth in the human beings, right? Like our priorities end up changing and we figure a way to make it all work, you know? And like that struggle is beautiful and it brings us a lot of pain, a lot of heartache sometimes, but I'm falling in love with like not being okay. You know, shout out to Mike. I listen to a lot of his music, and a couple of my favorites are kind of about the more dark topics that he touches on.
Yeah.
Suicide, awareness, stuff like that. And even if you're not going through it, somebody you know is. So it's good to keep in mind all the time that just like, yeah, like none of us are doing the best. We're all just trying to make it, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that is to certain people, you know, and some people are blessed with money and some people are blessed with talent and some people are blessed with family, just so many different things. And so it doesn't look the same for everybody, but everybody's trying, you know?
For sure.
And social media is kind of like a trap because everybody's just posting the highlights, right? And it's like nobody posts the time when you're arguing with your girlfriend or your wife, or nobody posts when you're sick or in the hospital, or nobody posts when you're bawling your eyes out for no reason and you don't know why. Like they don't post that, but they're going through it, you know, and everybody goes through something, right? So it's good to remind ourselves that like, yeah, there are kids fighting for food and water in other countries right now, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I'm complaining about my Netflix account, you know, or like whatever that is. Oh, my Starbucks took 20 minutes today. You know, It's like, man, if you're walking around like that every day, that's you've arrived, right?
Yeah.
Like there are problems out in the world and with each individual person. And it's like, we need to be more thankful, more grateful. And I guess this kind of switch in me is pretty recent. You know, I just want to give back now to people. And I'm not the richest person in the world, and you know, I still have to work for my money, but it doesn't have to be financial. So I can give my time, I can give my expertise, like you said, all the things that I've done. I can now help other people do the same thing or do something similar. And the money will come, so I don't ask for it. I just do good to start, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So I feel that money comes and goes for sure. Without a doubt.
It's not, I've been up and I've been down, right? Like I've had negative money in my account, and then I've had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in my account.
Yeah.
So it's like, was I happier when I had it, or was I happier when I didn't have it? I mean, I was more worried and stressed out when I didn't have it.
Yeah.
But it didn't change who I was as a person. And I knew that if that doesn't change me, then I can make as much as I want. I'll still be the same person.
Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah.
I know it.
Yeah. So like I said, this came recently, you know, because we've been in a shitstorm for a long time here in this country, this state. You know, COVID was a time warp where I lost 20 years. Felt like 20 years of my life when in actuality it was 2. But it's just, it's hard to come out of that and be thankful and be positive after all the shit that happened, right? So I've been working on that. Like everybody talks about working on themselves. Like thankfulness should be your first goal.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. I believe that.
Yeah.
And what's weird about COVID, bro, is like, I didn't realize what kind of depression it put me in. Like initially, you know, things changed and I was very upset, and, you know, everyone had different takes on it and all that bullshit. But then like, it wasn't until recently that I was like, damn, like it put me in a lifestyle and in a headspace that I didn't realize I got to until I really like took a step back. And I was like, I can go like live a different life. I can go do different things. And you know that that's a majority of the reason I went out to Texas and everything. And it's wild at how much it has changed, you know, and I want to get into what you think about all of that for sure. And the change of it and where we're at now and like what to take from it, all that. So, you know, I'll let you expand on it.
I think I'm very proud of you that you were able to just pick up and be like, yeah, I'm moving. I'm going here. And like, this is better for me right now. This is what I feel. You know, you're a man, right? Which means you walk to your own beat. And that's something to be respected, because a lot of people don't have that dog in them. That's like, man, like I'm just going to go do it. Like, fuck what you think. If you want to support me, great. If you don't, that's fine too. And we're kind of at the point now in music for us where it was like, okay, you didn't support us back then. That's fine, you know, but like, we know who was with us and who was riding. And so when you start hitting these bigger milestones, people are going to want to come around. They're going to want to be around. Right. And, it's just, you know, I just want to give you your props, your flowers on making a move like that, because a lot of people won't do that.
I appreciate that.
So, and I'm happy it's worked out for you, right? I think it was a positive move.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And it got you back into I like to say your why. Like, why am I doing this? You know?
For sure.
And I think if you keep going, just knowing that you did that already, and now that you're pursuing different avenues like this, you're going to make it. And I feel like I have a good sense of when people are really about their shit and when they're not. And that's usually what determines my help for them. But more into COVID, for me, I lost jobs. I lost opportunities. Story, we were supposed to do Slow Brew. It was our March Madness show, Long Haul Presents. And it got canceled. Yeah. And I was in Slow Brew in the music hall sound checking when I got the call from the Slow Brew big dogs that was like, yeah, so we're going to have to, you know, at the advice of California's health department or whatever, we're going to have to cancel the show. So this was like literally the first day of COVID when we had a show, and it was just like, yeah, you're not doing it. And we're like, okay, like we sold, you know, 500 tickets, whatever it was, sold it out. And it's like, oh, you can't do it. And we're like, And then that was kind of my first, like, this is what COVID is, right? This is bad, because this never happened to us before ever, right? So talking to friends, still very early when this was all going on, talking to friends, and like I had some friends that were like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I go to work, I do my thing, like I'm not even worried about it. Like, why are we talking about it? Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's a cool perspective, but like all the alarms are going off in my head right now because they just said I can't do a show. My job's acting funny now. I got cops coming to bars trying to shut us down because we had too many people in there.
Damn, that's wild. See, I wasn't like in the bar scene when it happened, so
it was pretty wild. I was managing a bar.
So were some of you were trying to stay open, some just said fuck it and closed, and like.
Yeah, I mean, depending on who your owner was, basically, was kind of how you played it. Our owner at the time was very like, you know, this is just like anything else. And if people want to show up and they want to participate, they can. We're not going to bar people from our establishment, basically. Yeah. And that went on for about a week or two. And then we started old people, some old whites. And I'll tell you, the most dangerous person is a white liberal. That's something I believe said by Malcolm X back in the 60s, right? Yeah. That was one of his quotes. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Because who was coming by and taking pictures and like sending them to newspapers and like, for real? Yeah, they were coming by taking pictures of our bar.
Joe Schmo in the community, old white dude. Old white. And he had never been down high gear
doesn't party
at that time ever.
He's like a 60-year-old dude. You know, and he's in there taking like just from the window, like taking pictures of a packed bar. Yeah. And it's like, and then would send them off to whoever. And then sure enough, cops come down the week later and they're like, so this is what this says. And this is from the state and you guys have to close. And I was like, okay, like I'll pass it along to my boss, right? Because, you know, I'm a manager. Like, at the end of the day, I can't make that call of like if we're staying open, if we're not. Yeah. But the way I was feeling, I'm like, dude, if people want to show up, let them show up. You know, that was kind of my whole like start. Like, why are you telling people where they can and can't go and who can be open? And like, you know, later on in the pandemic, then you like kind of get more clarity when you see like, oh, they let liquor stores open. They left Best Buy, Walmart, Target, all these big box stores, they were open. Can't shut them down, but if you're a small business owner, you gotta shut it down. Yeah. If so many people were affected, you know, so many normal, regular Americans were affected, and that's when I kind of started like, okay, like, yeah, this is bad, but how bad is this going to get type of deal? And kind of depending on where you live is kind of how it all worked, you know? Yeah. I was really jealous of a lot of people in Florida because they were like, yeah, we never closed down. Yeah. And like, I remember the news being like, yeah, so all these rallies and stuff going on, these are COVID, like a place where COVID can spread or whatever. But then we're sitting here in 2020 with the Summer of Love that I like to call it, the BLM riots, the protests and riots. I like to split them up because I do know there are some people protesting and then I do know there are people rioting. So like whatever side you're on that, like whatever.
And that's cool with you because I'm totally guilty of like, I lump that shit together all
the
time.
It's easy It's easy to do that, honestly. But because I just know.
Didn't know really what they were out there for, if I'm being completely honest. You know, like people were just out there to just fucking be out there and like
the news activates people, man. The news really like makes people feel scared. Yeah. Like the thing I'm hearing right now is I just had a old lady come into the shop and she was just like, hey, like, she's like, what's going on with the world right now? And I'm like, oh, it's funny you ask. Like, I'm just here at work, like having a good day. You know, like I don't pay attention to that because it doesn't affect me. Right. Yeah. But if you're sitting there listening to Fox News all the time or CNN or whatever, they're both owned by similar people, similar companies. So if you think like one's right and one's wrong, you're probably a little off. Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah. If you trace where the money goes, you're like, oh, these are like the same. Mm-hmm. So even though I like some people on certain sides, like I have to remind myself that everybody's paid to do something, right? And influence is what the media is supposed to be and what they do, right? And it used to be a little more honest, I think. But yeah, so now they're just carrying the water for whoever's running the show, whoever that is. But yeah, COVID was difficult. Those riots, like, it was just funny to see the coverage because it's like, they're outside. Like, this is, you know, it'll be fine. Like, there's no chance of COVID spreading here and I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at it like, if one is bad, then the other one has to be bad. Yeah. And if one is good, then they both have to be good. Yeah. So I try to like it's really hard because they throw so much information at you and they're like, okay, like figure it out. And you're like, well, I would, but like, you're not telling me the truth.
Yeah. The whole picture.
You know, give me everything. And then I'll be like, okay, yes, I'll do that. Or no, I won't, you know? And that's getting into the vaccines, which is a whole nother level of COVID that I think really is tough, especially in the music business. Think touring, shows, gone overnight, festivals. Like people didn't do that for years.
Yeah.
You know, and like how did that affect musicians who are already struggling, right? Musicians are the creatives of our entertainment, but they don't get paid like it, you know, and unless you're really at the top, like everybody's really just fighting for scraps at the bottom, waiting to get paid. And like, that's a tough place to be. And then you want to shut down their only, you know, pretty much one of your only ways of making money.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, everybody has like a serving job in LA. If you're like an artist or an actor,
For sure.
you got to like pay the bills somehow.
Yeah.
And I think that's true with everybody. You know, very rarely do you meet people that just do music and can make a living off of doing that.
Yeah.
You know, it really takes getting to the highest levels to then start getting paid really well.
Where's the money at right now? Even if it's not, you know, supporting all of your bills and everything, where's the money at right now? And what's that look like for an artist, especially post-COVID?
Yeah. Well, now that everything's kind of opening back up, touring's a viable option again. That's where a lot of artists make their money. Ticket sales and merch are kind of some of the biggest. I would say merch is probably the number one way to make money as an artist.
Okay.
Because your margins are so good and you can move a lot of it online, right? And as long as you create a brand that people want to wear, you know, you don't even have to really be good at music. You know, someone likes your hoodie, they like your hoodie. You price it well and you got your margin, like, okay, like they don't even have to be a fan. You know, they can just be like, oh, that's dope. So for me, I always like to think like you're going on tour, you're doing a show, where's your merch? Like that's one of the biggest things. Like that's the way you're going to make money right there at a show, because these people are already here. Like how many times have I bought a t-shirt at a show just to like support?
I don't know. Like anytime I'm there, I think I'm buying something. Yeah,
buying something, some piece of gear, just so like at the end of the day, I get a free piece of clothing and I donated $25, $30, right? And like, that's really supportive because when you go on a 32 city tour, you got merch. Maybe there's 10 people every night that want to buy something from you.
Yeah.
Well, do the math, 32 times 10. It's like, okay. Now you add what your hoodie or your shirt's $30, $20. Like you can make some money like that.
For
you know?
sure.
Like, and that's just being like, I don't want to say nobody, but just like being a supporting act on a tour, you know?
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it. And so really you got to think more in business terms than music, because music's almost like a pipe dream for people where they're like, oh, I want to be this. I want to be this guy, this star. I want people to like feel me. And it's like, yeah, that's great. And that's where it starts for a lot of people. But you really have to run it like a business if you want to succeed, right? Because the money doesn't always come in and the money always goes out, right? You spend money on everything. As an artist, you're paying for studio time, you're paying for beats, you're paying for videos, you're paying for videographers, you're paying for a DJ to DJ your shows. So there's a lot of expenses. And if you aren't actively deciding that like, hey, I'm going to run this like a business and I can't let more out than comes in, you can really, I guess, make your moves count that way.
Yeah.
You know?
So how do you make your moves count? Like somebody like me who's getting into it, starting, wanting to like, because I'm at the stage where exactly like you said, like I want to be that guy. You know, like I look at shit.
Yeah, that's a cool dream, man.
And for sure.
That's where I started. You know, we just talked about it. Like I wanted to be that. I looked and I saw someone being something. And I was like, that looks cool.
Yeah.
I think I could do that, or I want to do that. And that's great. Like that's an awesome place to be. That's an awesome place to start, because now you know what your goal is. Your goal is not, I want to be this guy, but it's, I want to do the things that he's doing.
Yeah.
So now for me, it would be like, how do I get there? How do I get that national tour? How do I get, and you know, you're going to eat a lot of shit in the beginning. You know, the reason we call it long haul is because it never came easy, right? We've been at it 12 years, long time, right? From its conception. And so you're going to have to build, and you're going to have to build a following, and you know, that's its own business right there. Like social media and marketing, like these days you can reach so many different people from all over the world. And it's something a lot of people don't think about, but like tap into a different market. Like I know the US is a big market because we have the most consumers here, but Bad Bunny, he blew up and he was mostly doing the South America. That's kind of where his start was, right? They blew him up in the Latin community right there. And then they were like, okay, now we got a big enough buzz. And it's like, let's move him to the American market.
Yeah.
And so there's different, like, once you get into streaming, like, there's different prices for different regions, right?
Okay.
So it's like the US has the most pay for artists in terms of streams because they have the most users. But then you get down into like another big area is like the Philippines, right? And they support just because you're an American or like Asia or, you know, anything. I'm trying to think of K-pop right now, how big that is with like our teens.
Yeah.
And it can go vice versa. And they love American artists in other areas. So I think people get really focused on America, which they should if you're from this market. But there's a lot of other opportunities. You could do shows out there, like, and they'll love it, you know? So there's a lot of different ways, but I would say you could blow up in a different market. I would blow up in my market first, honestly. Yeah. So it's like home base, you need to have a strong following. But then after that, it's just expanding to different markets that reciprocate to you, I guess. Yeah.
Well, you're actually the perfect person that I should ask this question, man. I have this whole idea in my head of like how I want to go about working my brand into a market, right? Mm-hmm. And around podcasting, music, experiences, all that stuff, which again, you have experience in all of that. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that, you know, my plan is sound, but things change along the way. And obviously, you know, you're going to give me advice today.
Yeah.
And my plan will change even after today.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at like, hey, I want to tour around. I want to talk to some of my, you know, great friends who've got great stories and great advice and whatever it might be. Tour around, right? Do it once, go around again with, you know, while dropping music, you know, so see different cities, see different people, get different feedback and kind of see what sticks, what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, maybe do it a third time and a fourth time, continuing the podcast, continuing the music, and then like kind of see what cities vibe, what cities don't, and try to do shows along the way. So I don't know what you think about that plan, and
it's good.
It's kind of like what I got going on.
Yeah, analytics are a business owner's best friend.
So you're saying dive into
your analytics because that will tell you who is listening, who likes you, and where they're from. Right. I was on my way over here. I was just like, I go on. So Spotify has this like Spotify for Artists app, and you just go in and it'll show you your songs, and it shows you how many plays you got, where you got the plays. And now I can kind of build a picture in my head of like, okay, if I ever wanted to do a tour, like where would people know this song? Just the song at first, right? They're listening to it in Denmark. They're listening to it in all these other countries that you're just like, I had no idea, right? You had no idea that you had people listening to your music in other countries. But it's a very cool thing to like, to get that.
Is that what you're experiencing right now in your analytics? What like?
Yeah. So mine right now, my biggest market is the United States, just because that's where I spend most of my focus and from here, and it's in English. So, you know, it's probably going to do well here. But I get a lot of just different countries, random countries, Italy, like I said, Denmark. I mean, we could pull it up, but it's, you know, a couple plays here, a couple plays there. I'm sure if you're on a bigger level, you know, that's looking a lot crazier with a lot cooler lists. But it shows you the number of streams and the region, right? So that's important for me because if I want to do a show, like that's where I'm going to go. I want to do a show here. So it's like, oh, somebody listens to my music in Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay, like when we're thinking about a tour, like we're going to stop there because they already know the song. Mm-hmm. So we have a good chance of getting them to
There's already buzz there.
Yeah. So they know my name. They know this song. They like this song because they're playing it. And maybe that's someone who would come to my show and buy merch.
Yeah.
And we call those super fans. We want those people. Super fans, they support, they buy merch. They come to shows, and that's really like your core group. That's who you want.
How do you build a super fan? How do you get that person? How do you get somebody to fall in love with you like that? I'm a victim of it for sure, you know, but how do you do that?
I would say make content that is true to yourself and relatable.
Okay.
I think those are the two biggest things, because if you're authentic, people will like you. That's just off top. They're like, oh, like that guy, he's trying hard, he's working hard. Everybody has the haters that are gonna be like, oh, that's dumb, that's stupid, I don't like that. Whatever. We don't even want to talk to you, you know? Like, you're just being negative over there in the corner for no reason.
Yeah.
You know, I want the person who's like, man, that was a dope episode. Like, that helped me in some way. Thank you for that, right? And it's like, yeah, that's who I want to talk to. That's who I want to push my content to, because I can actually do good things. Am I going to be able to reach that guy in the corner who's talking shit? Like, maybe. But my super fan, the person who's really engaged and likes me for me and what I put out, that's who I want. You know? So I would say, yeah, just be authentic. Because if you try to fake the funk, and I've seen a lot of people do that in music, you know, talking about certain things that you're not doing. Yeah. And it's like, man, I don't believe you. You know? I can't get down with that, because like, that's not you, and I know that. So I'm like, that's kind of corny to me, you know? Yeah. So you can lose people like by being unauthentic. I don't know. Math.
Honestly, I'm guilty of that to the max. Like when I first started, I don't know, it's been like a year or two since I was, again, like in that limbo stage of like, do I want to do this? And then like some excuse of why, like I didn't want to do it, you know? Yeah. And so, you know, I've made maybe like 4 songs. And when I say I made 4 songs, like I didn't produce the beat. Like I didn't, you know, mix it and master it. Like I didn't do all the things that one day I would like to do. I would like to be able to produce a song from top to bottom, mix and master it, and release it. Like that's a dream of mine.
That's
like
the Russ formula right there.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
He put out what, 9 albums before he signed, 10 albums, something like that. Yeah. And he produced most of them. And it's like he wrote all of it, rapped it, like.
And even if it doesn't pop off, I still think like if I can make something, which as a side note, I'm starting to believe that like, as an artist, like you never really like fuck with your shit as heavy as you might think, right? Like you tell me if I'm wrong. Like anytime I make something, I'm like, dude, I'm not about it, you know? And I made it, right? And I've told myself like I'm gonna release my first song by the first of the year. Like that's my deadline for the first list.
January 1st, 2023.
Yes, sir. So you know. Obviously, you'll hear it before a lot of people do. I'll need feedback and stuff like that. But what's the advice there? Like, what do I need to know between now and the first of the year? Like, what do you have for me? Because it's tough, bro. Like, I'll make something and I'll just be like, oh, like it feels unauthentic, like you were talking about. Like, originally I was talking about like just the dumbest crap where I was like, this isn't me. Like, I'm just trying so hard to be somebody else. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So... Again, what's the advice? Because
I feel that.
Pick that right.
That's great, man. Music should be personal experience, I think, right? Like, that's the way you stay authentic, is you talk about things that have affected you in life, or positive or negative. Could be either. But, like, that's where I get my feeling to, like, start a song. So, my first song I ever dropped is called Friend Zone. Cool little like pop track, pop EDM. I like all types of music, so I can make a hip hop track, I can make an R&B song, I can make pop, I can do country, like whatever I like I can make it, you know? And that freedom allows me just to kind of be like, oh, I want to try this, I want to do this, like, and it overall makes me a more well-rounded producer. But what I would say at starting is like, I would have to make sure that music is good first, right? So like that's my starting point, is like, okay, like I can make music, but like does this match up with what you hear on the radio, just in like quality, right? I'm talking the mixing, the mastering, the beat, the flow, the lyrics. It all has to be on par before I feel like I can send it out to the world, if that makes sense. So for me, that's what I tell all the younger artists that start. It's just like, you know, hone in on your craft. because there's so much to learn, and I don't know 50% of it, and I've been doing it for a long time now, right? So I like to start there. Like, let's make sure whatever we put out is quality. Then after that, then we dive into marketing of a brand, right? Because with that song, someone hears the song, it's like, oh, that's dope. Like, let me go check this guy out. And like, you go to their Instagram or whatever, and it's like, they don't have a link tree or something easily, like a link where you can just click on it and like, oh, this is my music, this is my YouTube, this is my TikTok, this is my all of your socials, and all of the chances for them to click on it and be like, hear that same song that they heard or something else from you, right? And so by kind of aggregating all those things into one place, you make it easier on the consumer to support you, right? Because you think like you're scrolling at night, right? You're on your phone, fucking 11 p.m. You're like, oh yeah, let's see what everybody's doing before I go to bed. If I hear a song that I like and I click on it, I'm like, oh, that song's dope. Like, who is this artist? Like, I've never heard of him before. Then I'm gonna click on it, and if he doesn't really have his shit together, like, I might just stop and like keep going.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I'm thinking like, like, if the song is good, if the song is popular, it came across my feed one time, it'll come across again. If it's like, if the song is worth the attention, I guess, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so I think just by making it easy on people to find your stuff and to give you that one stream or give you that one view on your podcast, like, that's what we need, is we need to make it easy for them to consume our content.
No, I feel that. Yeah. And I found like so many of my favorite artists from that, like literally what you just described. Mm-hmm. And what's wild is like, again, I can like fall victim of it, not like in a bad way, but like I can experience that same process that you just talked about, but I still have like trouble putting it into a business sense. You know what I'm saying? Like I went through that same path. Like, you would think it would be easy for me to say, okay, cool, let me like turn around and figure out like how to make that happen for somebody with my stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So that is important, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's called Linktree is what I see most often.
Yeah.
And it's great because it literally puts everything right there in front of them to be like, oh, do you want to watch one of my videos? Do you want to listen to one of my songs? Do you want to get linked to my TikTok? Like, certain things, like, well, what is the goal? Like, are we trying to create awareness? Are we trying to make money on these social media accounts? Like, they all can serve different purposes equally, I guess. So some people make a living off of just making TikTok videos, right? Yeah. And like, that's great and that's cool. But is it like, man, for me to be an artist, do I have to be a TikTok star? That's kind of the dilemma we're in like right now.
Do you?
Damn. Yeah. Honestly.
For real?
Yes. Yeah. Some kind of TikTok presence. Because when you go into these meetings, the labels are going to ask you, all right, what's your socials? Like, do you have clout? Do you have people wanting something from you? If you do, then we can benefit off that financially, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're not looking at like, oh, your song's great, dude, I like it. I mean, yeah, they still listen to your music, but like mostly they're talking like, oh, what's your image?
You as a product.
Yeah, you as a product. How many people like you?
What do you bring to the table?
Yeah, that's what they want, right? They don't give a shit about you or your music, really. They're just like, oh, how can we make money off of you, basically? Yeah. Because they can't make shit, right? All those A&Rs, all those people that are always like, oh, I'm with the Interscope A&R. I'm just all the labels, right? You're like, okay, cool. Like, what do you do? Oh, you just go out to people and find good artists, and then you lurch off of them to give them to your big artists. Because they already know they worked, right? So that's kind of how the game goes. They know that Post Malone is going to sell wherever he goes. So why would they pay you money and take a chance on you to put you in that circuit when they know they can just take whatever you just made and give it to him?
Is that how it works? I guess as well.
That's how it works.
So how, I mean, again, and like none of this is like fact and, you know, whatever. We're speculating here. It's a conversation for fuck's sake. But like, if you had to guess, what do you think, what percentage of like Post's latest album, what do you think came from him? Actually, like in the total production of that album, what do you think came from Post? And again, we're just talking here.
Yeah. I love Post Malone, man.
Same.
Yeah,
I
love him. So this is no shade.
And it's no shade at all.
There's no shade coming his way.
We can choose somebody else too. We don't even have to say Post.
It could be anybody. It could be Cardi B. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
Do you think she's writing that music? No, she's not. What happens is A&Rs have a stable of people that they go to when their artist is about to release something. It's not like the artist is like, oh, like I feel like I need to release something right now. No, it's the label being like, we're going to release something. You need an EP. You need a album.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, okay, then how I guess it works is you have these A&Rs that go out to these groups of people like Long Haul and other people where they're like, hey, we need like this style song for this artist. And then it's kind of like, all right, like put out the back call and see who comes up with the best thing.
Okay.
Right? The best song, the best lyrics, the best melody, the best beat. Put them all together. And then they'll have the artist record it, right? And then bam, it's their song. But like, did you write it? No. Did you produce a beat? No. Did you come up with the melody? No. So it's like, wow. It's very, I would say inauthentic that way. Mm-hmm. I should look it up. Inauthentic, unauthentic. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm good with either.
I don't know which one's English and which one's a made up word.
But I'll have to that's going to be my first song, inauthentic.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's unauthentic, but inauthentic just flows better for me.
Yeah, for real.
I don't know. But yeah, I think most of music is like that at the top level.
Okay. See, I knew that there was some I think everybody knows that there's some aspect of that, right? Like, I don't, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not throwing any shade on it. Like, it's a good discussion. I always knew that there was like, writers in the room, producers in the room, right?
Yeah. They write it down. If you like click on a song, like you'll see who produced it and who wrote on the bottom.
Yeah. And I've
credits.
been doing that lately too. I've been going and like looking at some of my favorite tracks and like who produced this, you know, and like, and then going down that rabbit hole and finding that producer, right? Because that producer, they've got their own thing going on, outside of producing for, Mac Miller, for example. They got their own stuff. And it's like, I love that rabbit hole. I love like getting into it and like finding out. And we were talking earlier how Long Haul is a part of some really big projects right now too, which I think is super dope. Is there any, can you give me any insight into what's going on? And
I had to, run it by the bosses today to make sure that we could talk about everything. And they were totally, happy to hear that we're doing the podcast and, want to support you and what you have going on. So that's very encouraging for us as a group to like, kind of help where we can, know, and
like I said, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to be so rich that I don't have to work and I can just help people. Like, that's my goal.
Yeah.
That's my goal. Like, can I just like never worry about money and then just be like, all right, like, let's make music. Let's, we want to go on tour. Like, yeah, here's, 100K. Let's go on tour. Or just,
John Bryan, or what's his name? There was a producer. He was just on Joe Rogan. I forget his name. But anyways, I'll have to send you that podcast because it was so rad. But anyways, doing exactly what you're talking about, right? And he meets with artists and he chooses who he wants to work with, who he doesn't, because it's not about money. It's about like, we want to produce, or he wants to produce the best content. And it's like, again, not about money. I think is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. But you have to, I have to make it so I can keep living. But yeah, that's the goal, is just to be financially stable so I can just go do passion projects and help people wherever I have skill, and music wise, like, I have goals. Like I want to win a Grammy someday. Like that's on the list of like, man, that would be awesome. Right. How many more lives could I affect with that, with walking up on that stage and accepting that award? It's not even really about the song that wins it necessarily. It's more about like, man, now look at what else I can do just because I did that. Your life changes. Your price changes. If somebody wants to work with you, talk with you, whatever. You're like, oh, you're a Grammy winning producer. Okay. Yeah. It's going to be like 10 grand.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a cool feeling to be like kind of arriving on a scene. So that's one of my goals personally. In terms of what we've already done and who we've worked with, it's kind of been a long list of, I would say, start back 2016 Legend. The Legend remix was put out by Win. And that was our first song as a group, or, you know, just like one of our people had success.
Yeah.
I think it's at, I haven't checked it in a while, but at one point, the remix, which is pretty much an original, like he changed, you know, he rapped on it, basically. I think they changed the chorus up a little bit and they used the beat, right? But to this day, I think it's above 4 million plays or something on Spotify. And that's just one. That's just one. You got to think there's like Apple Music, there's YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. Yeah. Like who knows how many video hits he has on that.
Yeah.
And then like TikTok really did him well. Kind of when TikTok started for his All the Same album and the hit song All the Same. So then that one went viral on TikTok and he's got millions of plays on that song by now as well. So it's like that was kind of the start of success, I think, with Long Haul. Yeah, the traction. Yeah. And what I always talk about is false peaks. And I talk about this a lot with Paul. In 2017, James did a song with Pauly D called Silver and Gold. And it was just like Pauly was kind of, I think, wanting to be, you know, more of a seen as a producer than just like a DJ or like celebrity or whatever. And that was like a really big collab that we did with the help of some really cool people. And like, we kind of thought that was going to be like, all right, this is going to like take us to the next level type of deal.
Yeah.
But I like to call them false peaks because there's always more work to be done after you have a big win like that. And to think that one move is going to like put you on the stage is like very hard to do. Like that doesn't happen a lot to people.
Yeah.
Where you get that like instant celebrity, you know, like, and you could say that like the Island Boys, we all know who they are because we've probably seen that video.
Yeah.
And you're like, that happened to them instantly, right? They might have had money. They might have like been working on their brand, but they exploded over one night, over one video, right? And like, what did they have to back that up? Nothing. And that's why they kind of have fallen off, right? You can be like a TikTok star or celebrity or whatever, but like, they got booed off stages. You know what I mean? Because they're like, you're not an artist, dude. You're just like, you had a viral moment, you know? And so like, I like to stay away from that as well. It's not just like, let's go viral. It's like, you have to have something behind it to like keep pushing it forward, you know? So
sure.
I would say when you do have those big wins, celebrate it. But then like, it's time to get back to work because that one thing is not going to put you in the place you want.
That's so important. As you're saying that, like I'm thinking about like so many different aspects of life that applies to, you know, and it's so true. It's huge. But like also you don't want to discredit the wins. You want to,
we celebrate them,
right? You want to
celebrate.
You got to celebrate it. You got to feel good about it and appreciate it because it's a long haul.
It's a long haul,
and the wins are cool.
Yeah, you have to give yourself, like this is what I do personally in my like finances, I guess, is I set goals for myself. Like this is how much money I want to obtain this quarter, let's say, every 3 months. And it's like, okay, I saved that. Great. Like I hit my goal. Now go spend a little, you know, like, cause I could save it and save it and save it. But like, when do I get to like celebrate me reaching a goal? If I'm just going like, okay, here's a goal, here's a goal, here's a goal, and I just keep meeting them, then it's kind of almost like, well, that goal, you accomplished it so easy. So like, was it really even that good of a goal? It's like, no, that is something I set my mind to, I accomplished. And the more we make young men and men in general follow through and take responsibility for every move that they make, that's where you get like the drive and what I was talking about earlier, the dog in you to like keep going. Yeah. The shit gets so bad for people, and it's like, you got to keep going.
Do you want to hear something crazy embarrassing?
Yeah.
So, like, my first episode, it was tough. There was a lot of things that were tough about it. Nothing wrong with my guests or anything like that. And same with maybe the second and the third, it's tough. And I remember my buddy in Texas, I remember complaining to him, like, dude, like, after my second episode, like, can you imagine, like, putting two episodes out and then just being, like, discouraged, which I was, you know?
Yeah,
and
no,
then,
that's real.
The reality of it, I had to, like, snap back and be like, dude, you've done nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you, like, really go out and, like, set some goals, start meeting those goals and do it, and, like, and I thought, like, in my head, I'm like, oh, that first, like, if I can just get the first episode out, then things will be okay, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did it and experienced it with the podcast for sure, because the music's going to be the same way. Mm-hmm. I'm telling myself, like, get that first song out and you'll be okay. But same thing's going to happen. You know, I'm going to be like, damn, like, shit's tough.
That's
shit,
real.
like, and like, who am I to think, like, after, again, 1, 2, 3, you know, even 100 episodes of a podcast, you know, like, so what, almost, you know, and it doesn't discredit the fact that you go out and you do 100 episodes, but you have to remember that, like, you're not owed anything, you know, like, you can you go out and do it all day long, and, like, until you master your craft and be authentic, the things that you've been talking about, like, that's really what backs it. And I think, if I'm hearing you right, that's kind of what you were saying. You got to have something to back it, be authentic. And these are all notes I'm taking in my head, and obviously going to be moving forward with the podcast production, music production, and all that. And
well, the podcast is great, man, because you're, you know, only a couple episodes in, and you know how to set up a podcast. You know how to book somebody to come to your place. You know how to book a venue for that podcast. You know, that's a lot in and of itself. We were talking about the equipment and stuff, where I'm like, how many people would take this money in their hand, substantial amount, like, I don't want to front people off and, like, you know, any of that, but it's a substantial amount of money to, we talked about the move earlier. Just do that is, like, pretty wild. Right. And then you have starting this and the funds that it took to do that. How many people are going to take that chance to really, like, do that? Because that money is not guaranteed to come back to you. Right. And you got to know that going in. It's like, I could turn this into something profitable, but also this is what it takes to start it. And a lot of people don't even have the balls to, like, do that. Of, like, what do I need? How much does it cost? And then let me get a plan together and execute that plan. That's literally what success is. Like, 3 or 4 things you need to do. I have friends who started products that, like, shit, you would never even think anybody would need. And they're like, I thought this product had a need. It met a need for somebody, a big enough audience for us to make money at it. And it's like, damn. So, like, what did you really do? You, like, came up with a product idea. You realize that idea, and we were like, okay, that's a good thing I need to start working on. You made your first product, and then you started marketing it to people, and now you are in big box, doing, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in purchasing orders every month. So it's like, is anything really that far away? You know, for real.
And that's the wild part, you know. Yeah. And you don't know until you start.
Until you
have
do
to
it.
have something to start with, you know. And like I was telling you earlier, it's kind of like anything in life, you know. Like, I'm very familiar with software, right? Sell it. That's what pays the bills and everything.
Yeah.
And
very cool, because that's way over my head.
You know, it's just different. And
computer science, like.
And I'm not like a tech kind of guy where I'm doing the coding or anything like that. I understand enough of it to communicate, but a lot of the things you have been telling me and the conversations we've been having, like, it relates, you know, and it relates to a lot of aspects of life. Like, the advice I was given in software is release early and release often, you know, and like, work to perfect it and mold it and shape it into your vision, into what you want. Right.
Yeah.
And, like, with the podcast, I can see and feel that to the max.
That sounds just like music, right? Yeah. It's like, that's the advice I give to people. It's like, once you know your stuff is good, put it out. Like, there's no reason to, like, get caught up on, like, oh, I have this, like, so we all have plans, right? Once you get to a certain level in music, we have rollout plans. This is, like, the things you need to do to, like, ensure a good kickoff to your rollout of whatever song or album, right? And it's like, okay, do you have your influencers ready? Are they paid? Do they already shoot the content? Do they already send it back to you so you can, like, post these things? Did you send your music into your publisher? And that publishing company basically is the one that distributes your song on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, shit you never even heard of, iHeartRadio, and like all sorts of things, right? I get emails of like, we added your song to this list, this list, this list. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, great. Thank you. And it's like, you have these checkoffs. It's like, did I do the artwork for the song? Did I shoot enough content or promo for this music or music video? And that's a whole nother level. Now we're getting into music videos where you're like, now I need to find this guy. Now I need to do treatment for the whole video. Like I have to think of the concept. I have to write it out. I have to be able to tell a videographer that like, we're going to do this at this time. And like, it's very overwhelming if you've never done it before, but we have these lists. And if you can complete that, then it's like, okay, you can put out your song. But what ends up happening is we get so caught up in that list that we don't complete something. And then it just gives us enough doubt to never put it out.
Yeah. Dude, it's wild, the shit you're explaining right now. Because like, it's what I'm experiencing myself. Yeah. It's like, sometimes I get overwhelmed with what I don't know. Then I'm like and I shy away from it, you know? And
I do that all the time. And it's one of my least favorite traits about myself.
Yeah.
Is that I let roadblocks stop me easily.
Yeah.
And I don't fight through it to accomplish what I set out to accomplish.
Yeah.
So I totally right. I feel that.
And what's wild is when you overcome that obstacle that you thought was in front of you, this big thing. Like once you really like take a day or take a week or however long it's going to take you to figure out, once you figure it out and once you know that skill, it's like empowering. It's so empowering to feel like, okay, that deterred me, but now I actually know the process. I know how to complete that and I know how to do it. And you're moving forward again and it feels good. And a lot of people might look at that and say that they themselves are quitting or failing or whatever just because of that one roadblock. But in this whole process of what I've got going on, I've told myself like, hey, it's not quitting if I'm still going. If I'm still going slowly or if I'm still moving towards that goal, great. Do I want to move slowly? No, absolutely not. Yeah. You know, but the roadblocks are wild. Yeah, and they're so they could be real and they could be almost like fugazi. For sure. You know? Most of the time it's fugazi. Yeah, like so many times I'm just like, man, I don't know this. Like, let me ask for help or like, let me talk to somebody. And then then the idea might just like disappear on me. Right. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten really good at writing things down in my phone. I can go on my notes right now and I can give you business plans and I have full businesses priced out, ready to go. Cause this is just shit I think about. Like sometimes I get high and I'm like, we're only doing weed out here, guys. We're not doing anything wild out here. There's no bad things going on. But sometimes I like to get high and just like think about like opportunities. Yeah. Like what can my brain come up with right now that's like, and then I do the research. And you have to do the research because you got to know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. For sure. So now I'm pricing things out and now I'm looking at margins and now I'm looking at like, okay, is this like sustainable? Is there enough business to keep the company afloat in the beginning and then also grow from there? Yeah. Right. And it's like, and then I'm like, okay, yes. Once I check off these boxes, I'm like, okay, let me price it out. And I have businesses where I can give you like services and tell you how much it'll cost. And like, they're just there. They're just sitting there waiting for me to do something about it. You know? And it's bro, like, you know the first business we're going to start together, you and me? Let's do it. This is something I've thought about for a long time. This was an idea I had when I was high. And let's go. I'm now going to give it to the 11 people that watch me on the podcast. And so hey, maybe they want to be investors. Yeah, come on, bring it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But in any case, I don't know why like Old Spice doesn't make a laundry detergent, you know, like a male fragrance body. And I'm not saying that like the laundry detergents out there is just so random, but like I'm always like, it's my favorite high idea I've ever had. Like if Old Spice had a laundry detergent, I would be all about it. But anyways, there you go. That's my one high, like that I know is solid. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to dive into this a little bit because every time I hear a good idea, I need to explore it a little bit more. Yeah. Explore it a little bit. Let's see.
Some of my first questions would be like, do you just want a manly scented laundry detergent? Like Old Spice has nothing to do with it, right?
Yeah, it's just Old Spice is easy to tie it to, like, you know,
a thought of a smell.
Yeah, like a thought of a smell.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and they've got like, their different lines of smells and deodorant and different things like that.
So it's just you want a manly fragranced laundry detergent.
Yeah, or just different than
well,
Tide,
because
or
you think of who's in it.
staples,
Tide, Downy.
Yeah.
There's a handful.
They're all great smells, you know?
Yeah.
They're more like the floral, like, which is good. It's clean. It smells great.
But you want something that's going to stand out. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. And I would just not want Old Spice to be a part of it, honestly. It's like, fuck them. We don't need them.
We don't need them.
We don't need them.
We could do a whole branding around it and everything.
So, I mean, now I'm going into execution mode here. It's like, what do I need to make that happen? And scientists. So I didn't know this was a thing, but I worked for a startup company in 2017, 2018 up in the Bay Area. And they started with like a scientist or a chemist, I would guess. Yeah, chemist that literally put their product together, made their product. And I was like, oh, that's wild. Like you had to pay a lot of money to pay this scientist to like make this product for you.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about that right now, being like, yeah, we just need a scientist. Any chemists, you know, any, we got Cal Poly right here, a lot of smart people.
For real.
We need to find a chemist who can start working on this idea. And yeah, it's not going to be cheap, but, investors are great.
The Dollar Shave Beard Club or whatever the hell that is, that kind of model, you know?
Okay, so that's, direct to consumer.
Yeah.
They have no brick and mortars there, right? So it's just online, which is a great model. And then a subscription model. So it's like, that's what those Dollar Shave Clubs are, right?
Yeah.
It's a subscription model business where they're just like, people put it on auto pay and like forget about it.
Yeah.
You know, which is cool. I think that's I use that. Think of the things we already use that for, like streaming services are like that.
Yeah.
Credit cards in general, like a reoccurring payment, right? Yeah. On that note though, credit cards pay off your balance every month. And if you're not, you're fucking up. Okay?
For real, that's so important.
I like to just drop a couple gems for people who like don't have the financial literacy.
Dude, I feel like everybody has, like, they learn their lesson with credit cards. Everyone has like a story of like, learned the hard way.
My worst was $35K.
Ooh, for real?
Yeah, and credit card debt.
Like multiple credit cards or?
Yeah, 3 that I was running debt on the business.
How old were you? Do you mind me asking?
I was 27.
27.
I'm 33 now.
And I mean, it was for the business, you said?
Yeah, I was running debt.
A little different than like when I was going out, just running it up.
Yeah, so it wasn't like useless consumer goods, but it was like substantial amount of money.
Yeah, for sure.
That literally had to be paid off. And now I'm going back to this of like when I had zero money in my account. So imagine having that debt and all your jobs go away. Hint, COVID.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit, what do I do? I have this debt sitting on my businesses. Like I could file for bankruptcy, but that's a 7 to 10 year just terrible financial position to be in, right? Mm-hmm. They won't trust you with credit ever again if you file for bankruptcy. So you want to buy a house? Probably not going to happen if you file for bankruptcy recently, right? You want to get a credit card? No, your score is going to be like 0, right? They're not going to give you any credit line. What else? Cars. If you need a new car, they're not going to finance your new car if you've gone through bankruptcy recently. So it just really puts you in a horrible place financially to survive in this market. So I like to just share those gems of like, pay that off every month. Don't put more money on credit than you have in your account, right? You don't want to be upside down in credit card debt for no reason, right? And it's really easy for people to be like, oh, I need this. It's like, okay, but you got $1,000 iPhone in your pocket and you're complaining that you like can't pay your bills, so I got to put it on credit card. It's like, well, what did you make? And then what did you spend? And, financial literacy is crazy. And they never taught us in school. So I don't blame anybody for not knowing. But I work with a lot of young kids right now. And so I try to share with them, just kind of how to be a little more responsible with your money. And like, let me skip those hard times that I went through by myself, And yeah, so life isn't fair sometimes. Like, would I say that it was all my fault that happened? No. There were circumstances that, you know, got in the way of me doing what I was supposed to be doing. But I worked my way out of it, and you just make it work, you know?
Yeah.
And now I don't have any debt, because basically what happened is I ended up spending all my savings trying to pay back debt and like keep myself going for those couple of years.
Yeah.
During COVID. So yeah, that was a very difficult time, and it gets even more complicated when you got like a mortgage and you have like certain things that could go wrong and that could go really wrong. Mm-hmm. Missing mortgage payments is not something to joke around with, because they will repossess your house and you'll lose the equity you already put into it, you know, and it's difficult. So that's why I tell all my friends, if you're going to buy a house, just be smart. Make sure you got the money and you got a plan, mm-hmm. you know, make sure you go through a real estate agent, because they're going to save you money. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's a lot of ways to get caught up in this country, unfortunately, whether it's a law or whether it's financial, something like that. Like it's very easy to fuck it all up.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it's not easy to make it all work.
Yeah.
So just keep it in perspective. But yeah, I just like to share that. Just don't do that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, don't leave money just hanging on your credit line, because 20, you know, some people have 30% interest on that, you know, and we won't go into all the numbers and stuff, but you know, they're as high as 30%, as low generally as like 15%, right?
Yeah.
And if you know anything about interest rates they've been under 1% for a long time now, but that's basically the money that the banks will pay you to hold, right? So it's like, oh, you give us 20 grand. Okay. You get right now, I think it's like 0.3% on that money or something like that. And it's like, well, that's not a great investment. Like, 0.3 to hold all my money is like, I guess it's insured, so like that's positive. But yeah. But also don't go throwing money around in crypto and stocks without knowing what the fuck you're doing either. For real. Because that can also break you.
Yeah, I've had somebody's lose their ass on that. For sure. Yeah,
and it's the chase, right? It's the chase of money that does that.
Or you hear these stories, you know, like you hear about like a friend of a friend who like hit big on whatever, and then...
Well, it's no lie that you can make 15, 20% all the way up to hundreds of percents, right? That is possible, but does it happen often? And are we really getting the fair shake of the stock market? I think not, right?
Yeah.
So you hear all these people, all these government officials, and they do like Nancy Pelosi, my favorite example. She is a shark when it comes to all of the financial stock moves. In
her husband, if you look at like his success in the stock market, like his percentage compared to the normal person is like 200 something times better than the normal person, which so I wonder how. You know?
So now that we're in the age of information, we know this, so we should just bet alongside him every time.
Yeah.
Because they got inside information that's letting them know that like, this is a good move.
Yeah.
And that's how these politicians come out being way more wealthy than they did. Yeah, they're not necessarily, I mean, they are as well taking checks, like campaign checks and stuff from like Big Pharma or whoever. But they're also getting the tips with these big corporations on like, hey, this is going to happen soon. So like either pick up some shares or drop some shares, right? And so just even that, like how far that goes, you know, they're making money. They're making money out there, which sucks, and we need to fix that.
Dude, we could talk all day about how, like, there clearly needs to be turbulence. There clearly needs to be all kinds of things, but...
It's hard, man, because we have all this time on a podcast, and, like, we can't... Like, I definitely want to keep this more music-based, just because I feel like that's where I have the most to give, but politics are wild, man. It's... and being in California, especially, like... I was telling you earlier, like, I feel like a tourist in my own country, in my own state, you know? And that's a weird place to be sometimes.
Yeah, you said you don't feel welcome, which I can totally relate. Like, I don't feel welcome when I come back here at all. Like, it feels very odd to, like, when I'm back here. And, like, to put it, like, you don't feel welcome is exactly how I feel. Yeah. And in Texas, it's night and day when you meet a stranger in Texas or when you meet a stranger in California.
Wow.
Night and day. Like, people will sit and have a conversation with you and they'll talk to you. And I've tried to bring more of that to California. You know, when I'm back here, I tried to, like, there was an interaction at PetSmart with the cashier. She wanted to show me some tattoo artists because she was commenting on my tattoos, and she wanted to show me some tattoo artists. And I'm like, lady, I don't have time for this. In my head was my initial thought, you know. But then I was like, you know what? Like, this might be like the highlight of her day. Like, this might be like a portion of her day that she's really excited about to share a tattoo artist or whatever, you know. Stood there at the register for, you know, a couple minutes, not to like pat my own back, but it's like, that's what Texas has taught me, you know, great. And like, and it feels better going throughout your day like that too. You know,
that artist could be a relative of hers. Maybe she's trying to like push his career forward. And like, if he does great work, like, why wouldn't I want to go use him? Right. So like, I always think about that of like, maybe this person like really needs this right now, you know, or like, needs the hug or the smile or whatever that's going to change their day. Because I think if we're all doing better, that will mean greater things for everybody, right? Like in the country.
You take that approach with security too. I know you take it, like we were just talking about that, and I know you always have. Like, you are for sure people's favorite door person of all time. You know, like
I appreciate that. That's dope. You know. Yeah, even more so than being someone's favorite DJ, being their favorite door guy is exponentially better.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. Because anytime you're in security, people just have that, like, there's like authority there, but then they're also like, they're probably not doing the right things, so they're gonna conflict sometimes. And I've definitely had that where I've had to like have serious conversations with like friends of mine of like, look, like, you just can't come into my place of business and do that. And like, I show them the respect of maybe they get in for free, maybe they cut the line, maybe they get like discounted drinks, whatever the perks might be of like having your homie work at a bar. You have to act right when you're in there. And so I think that balance of like treating people well, but also being like firm and fair with them is really where that like sweet spot lands of like, yeah, this guy, like, I fuck with him for that. Yeah. Because they know, like, I'm just doing my job, and you could fuck around anywhere else, but just like not here right now. Yeah. You know? And I think when you treat people like a human, right? Like, I know that you want to come out and you want to have a good time. I know your girlfriend might be 20 and wants to come into the bar, but like, hey, like, this is my job right now, and like, I have to do it. So you have to act accordingly on that side. And so when I feel like with that perspective and working, doing those kind of things, like, I feel like I get more respect that way, because they know that like, I'm a fun dude, I'm a nice guy, but like, there has to be a line that we like can't cross, or else it's like, it puts me in a bad place. Right. And then that's the next thought in their head, hopefully, is like, oh, if I fuck up here right now, like, he'll be not only upset with me, but like disappointed almost, because you have to hold people to a standard anywhere you are, right? You have to do good things. Like, if my friend's being a creep, like, they're being a creep, they're like, cut that shit out. Or if you're doing drugs in the bar, it's like, that's not tight. Like, I understand people want to go out and have a good time, but like, right now that I'm in here, we're not doing that. You know? And so I like that balance of like being good to people, being nice, helping people, but also keeping a respect in the place that I'm working, so everybody can have a good time. Yeah. Because I don't do it just to be the, like, this is a big security guard thing. They'll just tell people things because they feel like it, or they want like that power. And I'm like, that shit's so corny, because like, I hate that. I hate telling anybody anything. I want you to come in, have a good time, leave, and then that's it. Right? Like, I don't want to tell you shit. I don't want to have to argue with you. I don't want to have to take your ID. I don't want to take your drugs. Like, I don't want any of it. Just let me sit here and make money and have a good time. You know? Yeah.
I've definitely, working in bars, experienced what you're talking about. And I've unfortunately been the person to put friends in awful situations like that at bars. So I can totally feel it and relate, you know, and it is important to have that mutual respect. And again, I've broken it and I've earned it and things like that, you know, but it is very important.
I mean, that's coming from a guy who's like been blacked out on a bar top when I was supposed to be working. you know, not security, but DJing, right? I remember this one story library, like I didn't eat dinner. And if you're a DJ, you know, that's like rule one, don't skip dinner because people are going to come feed you shots regardless. You could say no, but they'll be there. And like, however much self-control you have, like at the time I didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
And I blacked out by like midnight. And for DJs, midnight in California is your like peak hour, right?
Yeah,
that's when I'm playing all the bangers, like 12 to 1.
For sure.
So I blacked out for peak hour. And I woke up on the bar of the library lounge. Yeah.
Wow.
I came to and was like, what's going on, dude? Where am I? How did I get here?
Yeah.
Like, why am I laying on a bar? Basically, right? And it's like, it was just me just not eating dinner, taking shots, and, you know, not really caring, having a good time. I mean, I was having a good time, like, and that's the thing too. It's like, I want people to have a good time, but like, there's lines. I just like, as a professional, and I wasn't a professional at 21, 22, 23, right?
Yeah.
But as a professional, it's like, yeah, you can't be doing that. Like, especially at a place where you work, they pay you money.
Yeah.
Like, that's no good. Yeah. So as much as I like to facilitate that fun time and have people party and do their thing, like, there's just a time and a place. And I'm pretty clear with my people, especially of like what I expect of them.
Yeah.
When they're in my bar. So, and it's, you know, people mess up and people get influenced, and you know, I run around with people still doing drugs to this day where I'm like, yeah, that's your choice, right? Like, that's not something I want to do, but I'm okay with you being here and I'll help you. Like, if something bad happened, I would help you. If you know, the cops get involved, like, I don't mind talking to them on your behalf and, you know, trying to settle situations and make them go away. But it's just not something that I choose. And I think we all kind of get along with that, you know?
Yeah.
My friends know that they can do whatever they want around me. And like, I don't tell people, I don't talk about it. Like, it's fine. What they do is their own personal business. And just because I'm there doesn't give me the right to talk about it. Yeah. You know? So yeah, but I appreciate that. People, especially in San Luis Obispo with Cal Poly, like, you see a new faces every year.
Yep.
Right? You have new 21-year-olds every day coming in there. So to be able to have that reputation consistently over the amount of years I was there is pretty wild. Yeah. And that's why, like, yeah, that's tight.
No,
you know?
that's right, man.
That's a different part of me that most people don't get to see. They don't see the security side very much because I don't post that, right? Mm-hmm. And my socials are kind of designed for my music and DJing, production, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So very cool that you know, I have those people out there who still remember the good times we had.
Oh, without a doubt.
You know.
I know Keanu does.
Absolutely, man. I kind of miss that, you know.
Yeah, the people that go through and they make good connections with and all that shit.
Yeah, I don't miss the drunk kids running around doing everything, but, you know, I've had some wild stories, dude. People stealing silverware out of a bar. You're like, why, dude?
Yeah.
Like,
how weird.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have forks and knives in your apartment? Like, figure it out.
Yeah.
You know? So, just weird, off-the-wall stories. People, you know, how much blood and throw have I cleaned up in my life? Kind of a lot. So, yeah, it's good to kind of step away from that, though.
Oh, for sure.
And I've definitely grown in security as well. Like, for people who don't know, like, if you guys need security solutions, call me, let me know, because if I can't do it, I can facilitate that for anybody.
Yeah.
So if you're into music and you're going on tour, or if you own a business and you're getting break-ins and, you know, you have people around your business that aren't doing the right things, then yeah, let me know, because I have so many different people and companies that I can recommend.
And I know you're like consulting even around the business too, in terms of security or in terms of like the experience for the customer, stuff like that. So
yeah, I've been blessed, man. I've been able to do a lot of different things. Executive protection's been kind of one of my favorite things I've been doing lately.
Yeah.
It's plain clothes. It's walking around cities and just basically making sure that whoever your principal is, or the person you're working for, is safe and is free to move about the city as they please, basically.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of pressure, and it's a long time to be focused. It's generally 12-hour shifts. So it's a long time to be like on your shit, but it's so much fun. And you kind of get to live the life of the celebrity with them almost, which is like kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Like people, EP guys go to different countries, right? And you're making good money. You're doing good for people. Like, I like that. That's kind of, in the future, I might be looking at starting something like that.
Okay.
So
Very cool.
yeah, that could be on the horizon. My own security company like that. So,
Nice. That's right.
I got the concept. I got the name. Now I'm just kind of still building the plan, kind of,
Yeah.
And I like, we talked about it already. I need action too, because sometimes if you don't work on it, it just goes away and you never complete it.
Yeah.
And that's for one of the major things I want to accomplish. That's one of them, have another business. That's what I'm going. That's what I'm shooting for next, I think. So
That's right. I love it.
Yeah.
And what I love is like how everything you do is around music. Not everything, but like a lot of what you do is around music.
Yeah.
You were saying you're social, geared towards music, and I'm envisioning in the future that mine will look hopefully like yours. That's the goal. And
you'll be bigger than me. You'll be way bigger than me.
I don't know about that, but I was thinking too. You made me think when you were talking about social. James K had that song "Happy Hour Anytime."
Yeah, that's recent. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? That on social, like I was all about it when I saw like his edit for social and everything, and I'm not sure if he did that himself or him and his team or whatever, but I was like, dude, that was so rad, because it was like what I loved about it too was that it was current. You got the inspiration from the Johnny Depp trial.
Yeah,
they threw that whole mix in there, that whole mix and edit when he made that video, and it really stuck with me because I was like inspired. I was like, oh, that's rad. Like that's something I would like to do, on social. And
and I think he probably already had that song lined up.
Oh, really?
I would imagine, like, because in music, like, we generally don't move very quickly on records just because it kind of takes a lot to get everybody involved in the same place at the same time working on the same project. Yeah. Because we could have the boys in the studio, but like what happens when you put 3 artists and a producer in there is like, oh, let me work on this. And like, then one person's like, oh, well, I want to work on this song. Like, so everybody kind of has their own direction. So tracks don't move quickly, right? Okay. And then because you have certain people like Sean Ross, doing, the mixing and mastering and then producing beats and then help writing songs. It's like he does that, but for a lot of different people too. Okay. So like how often are you going to get everybody in there to work on one track, And so I think that the Russ formula is smart if you're by yourself. Mm-hmm. But I would suggest getting like a team more around you that can facilitate those kind of things, right? Okay. So like I'm good at security and I'm good at getting places and being like timely because I work on a schedule most days. So like on tour, that's part of my role is like make sure that we're there for the flight, make sure that we got the rental car lined up, make sure we got our hotels booked, like everybody's 2 to a room or 1 to a room, whatever the situation is. And then even just kind of like doing some daily tasks that need to be done. So everybody kind of has their own role, right? And then obviously I'll like DJ the show, which is kind of cool too, because I get to do both things, which is practice basically for me, right? Yeah. And so doing that, like that's, you rely on your team to like shoot the video or, because I don't know how to shoot a music video. So like I either have to pay for it or have one of my team members do it, right? So if you're doing this like kind of solo thing, then like you have to learn that because you have to do it yourself. Yeah. And like you can't rap and film yourself at the same time. So like, I mean, I guess you could, but like,
you're not going to get the production.
Yeah, you're not going to get, that's a good way to put it. I was like, but you wouldn't do that. Because you could do that for like a clip maybe or like, but not a full music video. You're not going to be shooting it yourself. So a team really helps. Shout out to Captain Vides on that one. He's shot a lot of our early videos. Yeah. And now he's doing crazy stuff with a lot of bigger artists. So
that's right, man.
Congrats to him, man. It's just crazy to think about all these like people that we work with that, partly with help, but like we don't take credit for it. They took it and ran with it, and like they're running their own thing now.
Yeah.
And that's like beautiful to see that, like, oh, our friends, like, yeah, we paid them a little bit of money to do it for us because we were all like not anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then to see everybody 5 years, 10 years down the line, and you're like, damn, now he's doing big ass shoots with like really big artists. And like more lately, I've been seeing like kind of Latino artists, more so for him lately. So like just like very cool to see like people elevate like that and you know, reach their goals. Like,
yeah,
that's fucking awesome to see that people are doing what they want.
Yeah.
So,
dude, and you're huge on support. You supported me.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, man.
Cool.
And it really does mean a lot to me, like more than I can express. So
good.
I do appreciate you. I don't know about you, but I'm hungry. How you feeling, bro?
Yeah, let's get some food.
You hungry?
Yeah.
Anything else I need to know about long haul?
Long haul. What do we got coming? So we've been working. The boys have been hard at work in LA. Kind of more on what we've done since COVID, maybe, because people might not have been paying attention since then. COVID was a time where they really got into the studio in LA. So we have our own studio, Long Haul Studios in Hollywood, West Hollywood, or North Hollywood, sorry. We're in North Hollywood. And during COVID, they just really locked themselves in the studio and made music.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a really cool time for everybody to like come together and just create. Like they're like, fuck, we can't do anything else. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Well, let's just go party and like make music in the studio. And like that really set them up for, you know, the next couple of years of like releasing stuff, right? Because you make 100 songs, it's like, okay, like now you have content that you can mess with and you can be real specific and picky, right? So like maybe 50 of those tracks go to sync.
Yeah.
Maybe you use 10 for your album, maybe you sell 20 of them. You know, there's a lot of different options on how you can make money off of that.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, what that does is just sets you up for the next couple of years to either really cash in financially or put out a lot of content, which eventually equals money.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, they killed it over COVID doing that. Then kind of broke out after that, and they started working on the Donda 2 project.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that.
So Kanye, I don't know quite what their role was, but I do know they were locked in a room writing and producing music. So that's very cool that they got the opportunity to do that, and we'll see kind of where that falls when that project drops. I don't think it's out yet. And then French Montana has been big lately. They've pretty much been exclusively working with him. It's very like, it's wild to think that like, these wild, guys bro. Are like, oh, like Kanye, like, oh, he's like one of the biggest entertainment, biggest personalities, brands in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And then with French, like he's been in hip hop for so long and like been at the top of his game, really, you know? He's had billions of plays, you know? He's got coolest thing is to walk into French's house and just see the plaques on his wall, you know, and you're just like, yeah,
that's
like
so
we want this, we want that,
yeah,
you know, like we want those plaques.
Yeah.
So, they've been working real hard, and I, you know, if we don't tour, I generally don't work a lot with them, so they're kind of off on their own doing their own things, and I try to support them as much as I can from afar. Because I have my own stuff going, and I think that was kind of a difficult place to be for a while.
Yeah.
But now I realize that we all have to take care of our own stuff.
Yeah.
And our situations aren't always the same. We could be in the same group, but like their circumstances could not be mine necessarily, right? So
yeah.
I have responsibilities that they don't have, and vice versa.
For sure.
So it was definitely difficult because it's like, man, the team's doing this, and like, oh, they're going over here, they're doing this and doing this, and it's like, oh, you want to be a part of it and you want to, you know, help where you can, but it's just support, man. It's just give them the flowers for doing it and support them however you can, And I think that's where I found my most peaceful place in my life personally, is just like, let's not worry about the bad, and let's just like support people and help people get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
And if you're a good person and you move with integrity, I think there's nothing greater that I want for myself to be that type of person, I guess.
Yeah. So I love that. Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's where I want to be. Some of my experiences, some good, some bad, but I know where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's real empowering, and I want to share that with other people, man. So.
No, I love that, bro. And I appreciate you sharing it with me.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the invite, and, hopefully we'll do more or work together somehow in the future. I'll definitely be looking out for opportunities that I think would be good for you, and try to plug you in to wherever you think you want to go. And if I can facilitate, like, I know I already talked to the boys and they were like, oh yeah, like, send us the podcast, like, we want to check it out. Like,
yeah, I appreciate the love. That's cool.
Yeah, I had Win hit me up when I posted about it the first day.
Yeah.
And he was just like, oh, what's this? And I'm like, I don't know yet. Like, we'll see.
Yeah. I met Win back in the day through my buddy Greg.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Greg Orduno, but he's a good dude. He tattoos up in Napomo. He does some.
Yeah, really shout out Black Rose Tattoo Shop.
Black Rose, man, some great work up there.
Has he helped you? Sure. Has he done work with you?
I'm trying to get on his books.
Oh, okay.
I gotta have.
Oh, he's like hard. He's hard to get.
Well,
I know he's dope.
Got a schedule and everything.
Yeah.
And he had some time open up while I was home, and I'm only here for another week. But I was like, oh damn, do I go in and try to get some time? But he does some really good work. A lot of my friends and everything there. But
yeah, he's a dope artist. I've known Greg for a while. It's weird how Long Haul is kind of like a family. We're all from different parts of the coast.
Yeah.
You got kind of like Sean and James from Slow, and then me and Winter up in Cambria. Cody's like Napomo, like from Oceano, like that's where he grew up, but like really Napomo AG, up there. And it's just all of the friends that we all each bring to one group is like very cool to see. So like, that just shows you the love that we have for like all of our people. That we all kind of bring together, So Greg's a good dude. Shout out his business.
Yeah.
And there's so many people I forgot that like I wish my brain would allow me to collect it all, but sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Anybody who's ever helped us, even people, I guess it's kind of cliche, but even people who don't show us love, like that's okay too, and I don't blame you. I'm not mad at you, like Tupac said. But my mission now is to help.
Yeah.
So if you don't need help and you don't want to share what you have, then maybe it wouldn't work for us to like be partners. But that's all I want to do, and let's do that. Cheers to that.
I love it, man. That's rad. I want to take a minute to shout out the Sauce Pot here. We're in a studio. We got some drums and some keys going in the background this whole time, so it was authentic. So thank you, Sauce Pot, and give Word Sauce a follow. They're solid. They make some great music. They're a really, really fun group, and I know they do a lot of the recording here next door.
Yeah,
right? And,
if you need
their place.
If you need studio time or anything like that, definitely hit them up. The best in the business out here in Slow.
Without a doubt. And also, if you got love for me, you got love for Sevens. So give him a follow, give him a shout out. Shout out James K and Win. Those guys are great. Give them a follow in Long Haul.
Yeah, Cody, Sean. That's the clique, and then everybody, all the spider webs after that of artists and people and executives and fucking everybody's helped us get there. So
without a doubt,
it's not just us. It's a team.
And I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you for being on. You're the man.
Hey.
I appreciate you. Let's go get some food.
Let's go.